Eduardo "Eddie" Gullas Sr. passed away on the morning of November 6, 2025, at the age of 95. His death closes a public life that spanned more than half a century of elective office, institutional leadership, and local influence in Cebu. The announcement from the University of the Visayas and statements from family and local officials framed his passing as the end of an era for Cebuano politics and education. This account looks at the circumstances of his death, immediate reactions, and the broader implications for the region he served. Circumstances of his passing. Reports indicate Gullas's death was peaceful and occurred after a period of advanced age rather than a sudden collapse. Family members and institutional stewards managed the initial public statement through the University of the Visayas, signaling a private process before broader public ceremonies. Details about any prolonged illness or final medical care were kept within the family circle, reflecting a preference for dignity and controlled disclosure typical of long-standing political families who balance public curiosity with private grieving. Immediate public response and official statements. News of Gullas's passing prompted swift acknowledgments from educational institutions, political allies, and local government offices. The University of the Visayas released an official message highlighting his role in strengthening the school's programs and facilities, underscoring his dual identity as both a politician and educational patron. Local leaders described the loss as significant for Cebu's civic life. Media coverage framed reactions around respect for a lifetime of public service, while also noting that strong feelings exist in the community about political dynasties and concentrated local power. Funeral arrangements and public honors. Following the initial announcement, family and institutional channels coordinated funeral arrangements, memorial services, and planned tributes. Local protocols for a figure of Gullas's stature typically include a period of public visitation, dignitary messages, and formal wreaths from civic organizations. Officials often balance public mourning with logistical considerations, ensuring that memorial events allow both institutional and grassroots participation. Given Gullas's links to the university and multiple public offices, ceremonies were expected to include academic honors, statements from colleagues and former political rivals, and community acknowledgments of his long service. Political context at the time of his death. Gullas's political life was woven into Cebu's local governance, family succession networks, and regional development pathways. At the time of his death, he remained a figure around whom family and political allies coordinated influence and continuity. His passing therefore raises immediate political questions: how his family network will reorganize leadership roles, which projects and institutions associated with his name will be stewarded by successors, and how local parties and civic groups adapt to the loss of a central organizing figure. In many local settings, the departure of a patriarchal figure accelerates internal negotiations about succession, resource allocation, and electoral strategy. Succession and the future of the Gullas political network. Over decades, Eduardo Gullas and his relatives rotated through congressional seats, mayoral posts, and educational leadership positions, creating an entrenched local presence. The short to medium term after his death will likely focus on maintaining institutional stability, ensuring continuity at the University of the Visayas, confirming interim leadership roles where needed, and managing any electoral positioning tied to scheduled or upcoming polls. Family members who have previously held office are the most immediate candidates to assume public-facing responsibilities, but broader coalitions of local politicians and civic stakeholders will also influence the shape of succession. How smoothly those transitions occur will affect both public services and the family's civic standing. Reflections on public service and controversy. Gullas's record is complex and characteristically ambivalent. Supporters point to long-term infrastructure projects, educational investments, and decades during which he provided steady local leadership. They credit him with institution building and hands-on governance that produced tangible facilities and programs for Cebu communities. Critics, however, have long raised the familiar issues tied to political longevity. The concentration of power within a single family, limits on competitive political renewal, and occasional disputes over resource distribution and transparency. His death reopened debates about political dynasties, accountability, and the effectiveness of long-term incumbency as a governance model. Institutional legacy in education and local development. One of Gullas's most visible and enduring legacies is his role in the growth and stewardship of the University of the Visayas. The university's expansion under family stewardship, scholarship programs, and vocational initiatives marked a significant public footprint that extended beyond electoral cycles. Gullas's commitment to education gave the family a civic anchor and a recurring platform for community engagement. Beyond education, his name is attached to local infrastructure, public works, and civic programs. The persistence of those projects will shape how future generations evaluate his contribution to Cebu's development. National and regional reactions. National commentators observed Gullas's passing as the close of a notable provincial career that intersected with multiple eras of Philippine politics. Regional media reflected local mourning mixed with analytical pieces about political continuity in Cebu. Political colleagues offered measured tributes, framing his longevity as evidence of grit and public trust, while civil society voices emphasized the opportunity for institutional renewal and stronger accountability mechanisms in the wake of a powerful family's patriarchal departure. Longer-term implications for Cebu politics. Gullas's death is a potential inflection point. In the longer term, the region may see either continuity through family succession or a gradual remapping of local power if new coalitions and leadership emerge. The fate of projects and institutions associated with his name, and the ability of successors to translate his networks into sustainable public value, will determine whether his legacy solidifies as broadly beneficial or more narrowly self-perpetuating. For voters and civic actors, the period following his death offers a testing ground for how well democratic competition, transparency, and institutional stewardship can coexist with entrenched local influence. Final assessment. Eduardo Gullas's passing marks the end of an influential, contested, and institutionally anchored public life. He leaves behind a record of infrastructure and educational investments that supporters argue improved local capacity, and a political structure that critics say limited generational renewal. The coming months and years will reveal how his family, the University of the Visayas, and Cebu's political ecosystem manage succession, preserve public goods, and either reinforce or reform patterns of local governance. In commemorating his life, communities will also weigh the practical outcomes of his decades in office and the broader questions his career poses about power, service, and democratic accountability. Please subscribe for more.